it's not how many years you've been together. It's not whether you're married. It's not how many followers you have. It's what impact are you making in your life? And that's probably a lot of it too, is like, it's hard to not look at followers and growth and podcast listens and all of that stuff. I know it's important, but for me, my definition of success is different. Welcome to Tune In, Discovering Your Authentic Self. Today, I have a very, very special guest. I know I've said very before, but this is very, very because he is the reason I am here in some ways. Kevin and I met, I think it's been 6 years now, maybe 5 to 6 years ago in a like coaching group that of Anthony Trucks, correct?
I remember we met in connection with Anthony, but I don't know if it was I have no idea how we met. I just remember you and I talked one time on the phone and I was like, this is cool. This is a really cool human. And now here we are, however many years later, and we work together.
Yeah. And this is take 4, I think, for trying to record this podcast. So it's been me sick. Last time we were all ready and my microphone didn't work. And I was like, awesome. And we tried to problem shoot it. And both Kevin and I are the type of people that like, I will not stop until I get the damn thing figured out. Like I just won't. And we both were like that. And we both wanted to do that, but the microphone was not registering in the computer. So I think we would have been still sitting there for 12 hours later without any microphone.
Yeah. Well,
right?
There's other stuff to be done. And sometimes it's just as easy to reschedule as it is we tried all the stuff and it didn't work. And we said, look, today's not the day. Maybe next week will be better. And here we are, we're doing it.
And honestly, like the timing could not be any better. I think I have not really been in a headspace to do any interviews lately. And that's a lot of the topic that I want to talk about today, because now I am in a podcast growth group with Kevin and 2 of his business partners. And well, why don't you start with telling us who you are and what you do for me, and then we'll go into that.
Yeah, I think it depends on the day. So I am Kevin Palmieri. I am the host and founder of Next Level University, a global top 100 podcast with, by the time this comes out, I think we'll have 2,000 episodes. And we have a podcast production company that we're lucky enough to work with Nicole in. And then we have a self-improvement portion of the company. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I tend to wear a lot of hats, but at the end of the day, we're a podcasting company that has a lot of podcasts that likes to help people.
And you're a cat dad.
I am the ultimate cat dad. This is my best cat dad ever shirt. And it is accurate, I promise.
Did Taryn buy you that?
Yes, she did. Yes, she
awesome.
did. That's my wonderful wife. Yes.
That is awesome. So yes, I'm very appreciative to Kevin. So it's been, by the time this comes out, it will be 3 years that this podcast has been going. And it started for me long before the 3 years, but I just had this epiphany to do it. And I knew Kevin did editing and his people did editing. So I reached out to him and it's been fantastic, absolutely fantastic to work with them. They are on top of it. And if for some reason there's like a little snafu, they fix it right away. They're super creative. They come up with the titles for me because some days my creative juices are just not flowing. And instead of like trying to bang my head against the wall and get it out, I just defer it to someone else because that is not always my strength. And yeah, they've come up with some amazing titles that I could not have in my best day come out with it. So it's been,
I appreciate it.
It's been fantastic. So
thank you.
Going back to the podcast growth group. So I wanted to do it. It's been great. I haven't been able to get on the live calls on Tuesdays because of my work schedule and baseball and things like that. But the thing that I struggle with and in the line that I walk on, and this is what I want to talk to you about, because I do love your perspective on it. I think a lot of people in our industry are like, push, push, push. What's your goals? What's your bottom line? Like all the things. And I don't work that way. I am not salesy. I don't want to be salesy. I want everything to be organic. I don't want to feel like I have this deadline just looming over me all the time. And that's probably why I changed jobs. I like the autonomy. I like the freedom. So learning how to let go of that, but still keeping it in the forefront that I want to grow. And I struggle with that because society tells us post every day, do this, do that. And that's not who I am.
Mm. Strategy is different to different people. And I think that's one of the most common things that you see is people say, well, my strategy is the right way. That's one thought. I think the other thought is, I say this all the time. You've heard me say this. There are podcasters out there right now where I could give them the keys to the kingdom. Here, you can sit in my seat and you can run the entire stuff that I run, and you wouldn't like it because what I do on the day to day is not aligned with your core values. It's not aligned with your core beliefs, and it's not aligned with your core aspirations. You just think it is because you've been confused by people. So I think the fact of so many of us are trying to get to success, quote unquote. Maintaining success is as hard, if not harder, than achieving it in the first place. So we have to be very honest with what that looks like to us. So again, to your point, what somebody might say is, well, Nicole, suck it up for a couple of years and just do it every day. And then when you get successful, you don't have to do it anymore. It's not really the way it works. It's not really the way it works because you'd be so miserable the whole time you were doing it that you'd start to resent the goals and you most likely would never get to the goals. So there has to be something said about you have to do what works for you. Now, am I suggesting that you can just sit on the couch all day and your dreams will come to you? No, right. There has to be some level of strategy. There has to be some level of grit, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the same way that somebody else did it. Unless, and I don't have a better answer yet for this, unless you want exactly what they have. I don't know how to help someone do it to the same degree we have in a different way yet.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just don't, I know how we did it and I know how to lead that way. But I also, if I've learned anything from working with so many amazing people, there's a big difference between saying you want something and saying you actually will do what it takes to get that. I mean, those are just two very different things because everything kind of starts from a place of lack of awareness, right?
Well, and I think that's what it comes down to is, why do I want this? I think that's changed. I think in the beginning for me, it was a mouthpiece. It was my voice. It was my voice that I shoved down for so many decades, right? And not to anybody's fault, but just the way life was and choices I made, clearly. And so finding my voice and learning who I was the reason for the podcast. And I accomplished that. Like I have found myself. I mean, I don't mean 100%. Do we ever truly find ourselves? Probably not. But I am certainly much more clear about who I am and what makes me tick now than I was 3 years ago. And I have to say that a lot of it has to do with the podcast, just because what I've shared on here are things that have helped me become my authentic self. And so like I'm sharing it because it's what's worked for me. It might not work for everyone. Now, 3 years later, the idea and the point of the podcast has changed for me. I think there was part of me that liked, maybe not liked, but needed the validation. And I don't feel like that anymore. And I think that's why it's so difficult for me to have the task list of you need to do this many posts a week, this many podcasts like in the queue, because it's no longer that I need it. Now it's coming from a place of wanting to share in order to help people. And I've always had that helping part to me, right? I mean, I'm a physical therapist. I'm a mom. Like I always have that. But now it's the push and the reason has changed. And so therefore it's like, I'm like, oh, if I record something, I record something. If I don't, I don't. But I know myself, I never stay in that area for very long. Like I'm not going to be sitting on the couch. Like first of all, I'm not a black and white thinker, but I'm not going to be sitting on the couch being like, oh, and then 6 months later, I have no podcast. That will not happen. It's just a matter of what's going on in my life. In the last 2 months have been hard. I mean, I'll be honest. It's been, both dogs were in the vet, both cars were in the shop, both teenage boys have given me a run for my money, so it's been, plus being a single mom, full-time job, relationship, all the things, trying to do this. And so it's been heavy, and it's really hard to show up on here with that in mind. I'd rather show up on here and share that and be like, you know what, life has been hard. And that's why I'm not on here every week. And that's okay with me.
Well, I think people like sexy stuff. So if I showed you what I did in the gym and you recorded me every time I went, you'd get so bored so fast. Same thing. Chest day is the same every week almost. But if I did some wild stuff where I'm like hanging from bars upside down, throwing balls around, you'd be like, whoa, this is something.
Yeah.
Except that doesn't get me any results. That's not how I built the body. I built the body by doing the unsexy fundamentals nobody wants to do from a place of sustainability. So that is like my new favorite word when it comes to goal setting and goal achieving. A goal achievement is sustainability. Because if you can't do it consistently, it doesn't matter how good you do it once. It doesn't really matter how good you do it 5 times. And I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean this more in the way of, I would much rather you understand that, look, I'm going to miss episodes. I'm going to miss episodes, and I'm going to put myself first and my family first and my health first and my mental health first, because that for me is sustainable. I think that's really the only way to do it.
Mm.
Because again, we do an episode every day.
I know.
Most days I don't want to do it. Not that I don't love, we did an episode this morning. I loved it, but when I was broke, it was hard to do episodes. When my wife and I maybe have an argument before, it's harder to do episodes.
Yeah.
But that's what I signed up for. And here's the thing. Now that's sustainable. In the beginning, 1 episode a week was sustainable. And then when that got easy, it went to 2 and then 3 and 4 and 5. And maybe the biggest piece of it all, I want something different. That's all. So the approach has to be different.
Yeah.
So the thought process is sustainability starts it. Then you do the thing consistently. Remember, 75% is consistent. You just do it consistently 75% of the time. Still consistent.
Yep.
And then you focus on improvement. Then when that cycle closes, you start with sustainability again, and then you're maybe at level 2. And you just run that forever.
Yeah. And maybe that's just it. Reframing the sustainability to be it's nervous system regulation, honestly, is what sustainability is to me. So if I feel because I have spent decades not paying attention to it. Right. So now I'm paying attention to it. So I notice all the nuances to the point where it's like, can drive me nuts. I'm like, oh, there goes my nervous system. I'm dysregulated. Nope, can't do that. Can't say yes to that party. So like, that's how in tune I am to it, which is a gift, which is beautiful. But I think maybe if I reframe it that way, that it's about how, like, doing a podcast this week, is that sustainable for what I have going on? And if not, it's not. If I have something scheduled, I will follow through on it. But if it's something I have to do on my own, I'm only going to get on here typically when I feel it. But that I'm trying to challenge myself with too, because people don't want to see me put together all the time. The one I came out with today, I'm in freaking braids. I'm congested as hell. I could barely talk. I had brain fog, and I was like, whatever. Like, I just felt like, I wasn't leaving the house. I was like, I felt like just recording it. And that's what came out. But it felt okay. It felt authentic. It wasn't like me trying to put the makeup on, fit a certain thing, and like teach something. It was like, no, This is where I'm going, which I really don't know where I'm going. I thought I knew. I might have a podcast host. And for me, being authentic is my barometer. I can't do it any other way at this point.
Well, it's very on brand. So Alan, my business partner, has a saying, and I always butcher it. It's a question. It's, are you afraid you can't hit the ball, or are you uncertain of whether or not you even want to swing? Those are 2 very, very different things. That's where my mind goes is there anything in terms of podcast success that would ever make you do an episode every week, even if it meant self-sacrificing the way you were feeling? Because if the answer is no, then you're doing the right thing. That is my firm belief.
Yeah, I think the thing for me right now is my job is taking top priority, because I love it. It's a new job. There's so much to learn. But then I start to question myself, like, is that an excuse? Is that, something that I added to like sabotage like the success of this? Like it's just you too much inner work, and this is what you get. You get like a trial in your head. Am I wrong?
No, you're accurate. Yeah, you're accurate.
There's like multiple voices. There's my 7-year-old self and my 40-year-old self, and all the different selves trying to like bang against each other. And I just want to tell them all to shut the hell up.
It's privilege pressure for sure, because it's I'd rather do that than not know at all. But yeah, no, I feel you. I was reading a book today and they were talking about how self-awareness essentially just, depending on the way you're wired, it just forces you to look at who you are and whether or not you're living up to your standards pretty much all the time forever. And that can be a dangerous place to be
Yeah.
depending on mental health and mindset, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm in the same boat as you for sure.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
really funny. But yeah, I there have been times, and that I've texted you and I'm like, okay, I'm taking a break. And I know I took two. I'm not sure if I
Mm,
took three, but I know, and they worked for me. They were really hard times. Honestly, it was a lot to protect my children. Like if I
mm,
didn't have young children, or they're not that young anymore, but if I didn't have children, that I probably would have come on, but it took everything in my power to just keep it together on a daily basis. So to come on here and be authentic, I might have fallen apart, and like I can't do that to them. I couldn't do that to them. Now I'm in
right.
a much better place than that, but that's a lot of it too. And like yes, I could have been authentic, but like I also have to think about three children that are friends that watch, or they watch, so there's all these complications. But I'm just trying to figure out with myself, like what's the holdback, why am I not 100% going for it? And I think at first I was beating myself up thinking of all the excuses, but now I'm realizing it's alignment for me, and alignment is my compass, it's my north star. And just paying attention to what is, and what's like us not talking those three times, and this is the fourth time. Like I think I was bummed about it the time I was sick, so maybe two times ago. Last time I kind of laughed, I was like, you've got to be kidding me that the microphone's not working. Like, and then I always have that mentality, like it's not meant to be, there'll be an opportunity for when it does happen, it'll be bigger and better than I could have imagined. So I do have that mentality.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just realized it wasn't in alignment. And now it's perfect because I feel like I actually have something. I mean, there's lots of things that we could talk about, but this has just been something that's been on my heart. And
Can I
I
ask
know
you?
that I know how consistent you are
I
with it.
appreciate that.
So
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
What if you had to sell me on the idea of not being all in? What would you say? Like, sell me on why you shouldn't be all in on the podcast.
Oh man, that's a tough question. Why I shouldn't be all in?
Mhm.
I don't have a reason
You do for sure. We all do. I
why
could
I'm
give
not.
you 50 shot
Because
why I shouldn't be all in.
because I'll give you three.
Okay.
Because it takes away time from my kids. Um, it's not 100% what I do for my job, so I feel a little bit divided
Okay.
with that, like in terms of my time, my energy. So it's like here I am learning all stuff about babies, and then I'm coming on here talking about nervous system regulation, relationships, attachment theory, divorce, parenting, things like that. So it's not completely congruent, right? So
Mhm.
it's like I feel a little bit divided. And um just sometimes I feel like I I don't have anything to share at the time.
So I think the interesting thing about that is all essentially okay. So going to the gym takes away from the family as well. There's a list of things that give the same exact thing as those. It's just a matter of whether or not we want to prioritize them. And here's the other thing. I'm not even suggesting that you should go all in. As your podcast producer and a podcast coach who you pay every month, I don't I think all in is different for
Yeah.
everybody. I when you decided to go, it's like I hope you're good. If you need me, let me know. I'm not going to try to keep you. Like you're a grown ass woman. You know how you're feeling. You do your thing. If you're going to come back, you'll come back. I just think all in is a sexy term that got thrown around a lot that means something different to everybody. I don't have kids. All in is different for me. I'm not a single parent. All in is different for me. We I think we used to be in the hustle culture, grind your face off, never sleep, don't see your family, cool. Then I think we swung to like don't do any work and it'll come to you. It's like I don't really believe in that either.
Right.
But I think now we're on the same overswing with circumstances. It's like no matter what, I don't care if you have 12 kids, you find a way to go do the thing. Yeah, I don't know about that. I
Yeah.
think all in, I think, is personal, and I think
Yep.
it depends on the person. And that's why I asked you that question, because you're all in. It just shouldn't look the way my all in does.
Well, and I am all in at the gym. I've been going to the gym for 39 years. Like, I am all in at the gym. But does that mean I spend every freaking waking moment there? No. Hell no. But I'm all in, like, as much as I can be with all the things that I'm in with. Like, if you look at my pie chart, there's a lot of freaking things in my pie chart. So like, I'm fitting this in the best way I can. Now that I'm not working Saturdays, I was working every other Saturday, and that was taking time away from this. And so now I have my creative juices actually start to show up on Sunday, because now I have Saturdays off. So on Sunday, I'm like, oh, this could be like a podcast growth day. This could be a day, because I finally have my head somewhat screwed on before I got to go back to work on Monday. Not that work is that much of a, downer, but it does require a lot of energy emotionally, especially for me with what I do. But yeah, I mean, I believe that I'm all in. I don't feel like I'm like dicking around about it at all. Like, I don't. I just hear my New York, your Boston accent attitude makes my New York accent attitude come out.
This is fun.
It doesn't come out often, but when I hear a Boston or New York one, it does. I feel like I'm doing the best I can. But like, the whole social media thing plays into it too. It's like, every time before I post, and this is new for me, probably within the last 6 months, before I post, I ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I posting? If there's any indication that I'm doing it for validation, I don't do it. And so that's been a big change for me, because I think there have been times that of course I do it to inspire, educate, for sure. But there have been times that it's like, oh, I'm feeling a little lonely. I'm going to get on there and post something and see who I can talk with, or see who likes it. There have been those times. But now that's not the case. And I feel like there has to be a little bit of egotism, right? When you're doing this type of stuff. And that part I am trying to eliminate. So to grow and not have an ego is a fucking challenge.
It's not easy. It's not. Well, that's why it's so hard, because when people give you advice, they don't they don't take into account what happens after you do the thing. I think that's the hard thing, is it's not coming from a holistic place of like, yeah, I want you to grow your podcast, but I also would like you to be able to date regularly. Like, that would be good for you. And I also want to make sure you can sleep when you need to sleep. You can take care of your family. But I think it's just easier to give a one size fits all thing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the other thing I saw a I think Alan sent it to me, but it was something along the lines of somebody works a long time and they work on themselves and they figure it all out, and then they get successful, and then they start telling people that the stuff that made them successful was all like the minute, very insignificant things that they did in between. It's like, well, it was that ice bath that did it. No, it wasn't that ice bath. That wasn't it. It wasn't that. It was the hard work. But I think you're ahead of the curve when it comes to understanding core values,
right,
core beliefs, and core aspirations, and how they conflict. Because I think most people post on social media for those feelings. Right. For people will say, okay, significance mostly. Like, let me get significance.
Right.
The fact that you're not doing it in the short run might seem like a loss.
Right.
But it's not for you. It's a win for you.
Yeah. Internally. And the other thing about definition of success, right? Like, my definition of success is not making $1 million. My definition of success is helping inspire people. And this is the thing, is I'm doing this. I might not be getting paid for it so much, but I do have quite a few friends that reach out to me weekly to share their heart. And so I'm doing this, I'm doing it all day at work and getting paid for it. And then I'm doing it in my relationships as well. And so that is success to me. And like, without the podcast, without the personal growth, without the coaching certificate, I don't think I would be having that type of success. Including my romantic relationship. Like, for me, it's a very evolved relationship. Yeah, we have our struggles. We have a lot of stuff we have to deal with on the periphery with 2 divorced families, but it's a very evolved relationship. And like, that's success to me. It's not how many years you've been together. It's not whether you're married. It's not how many followers you have. It's what impact are you making in your life? And that's probably a lot of it too, is like, it's hard to not look at followers and growth and podcast listens and all of that stuff. I know it's important, but for me, my definition of success is different.
Well, and you've never once come to me and said, I'm not happy with the numbers.
Right.
That would be a
I
different.
barely look at them until they like pop up and I'm like, oh, there's 5,000.
Well,
That's nice.
that would be a different conversation, because I've had people do that where they say, well, I want 10 out of 10 results, but the way I want to live my life is kind of like at the 2 out of 10 level. It's like, I respect it. I just don't think that's going to work.
Yeah.
But I think that's approach. So alignment is approach, expectations, and time perspective in alignment. If all three of those are in alignment, you're probably in a pretty good place, because you're not sad, you're not getting better results, you just understand. Yeah, you just understand what I'm putting in is going to give me this in this one silo of podcasting, but it's also going to give me this and this and this and this. It's just a different approach.
Yeah. And I remember when we've had a couple of meetings on the side, you and I, about the podcast. And I remember you being like, so what's the next steps? And we're like talking about the next steps. And you're like, how about video? I'm like, nope. Nope. Like, I knew the first time you asked me, like, I was not ready. Like, it wouldn't have been right. And then the second time I was like, maybe, because there was stuff going on at the time. There's always going to be stuff going on in my life. But then organically it worked out. Like, you planted the seed in my mind. And over that Christmas break, I was like, somebody popped in my mind. I forget who my first podcast was in the new year, but it popped into my mind. Oh, I know who it was. It was Rachel Revelle. And so I was like, she had just come out with a song, her first album. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like the perfect person. So I asked her, I'm like, hey, like, any chance you'd want to be on video? And she's like, sure. She's 19 years old, super free. And well, sure enough, we record the damn thing, and I didn't have it in gallery view. I just had it for me. And so we do the entire podcast, 30 something minutes of just me. And then when she talked, it was me sitting there just listening. And she talked for a while. I was like, this is not good. But then I could have easily been like, fuck it, like, no video, we'll just do the audio. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ask her. I'm like, hey, video didn't turn out. I'm newbie to this. I'm like, would you want to do it again? Or do you not have enough time? She's like, 100% I'll do it again. So we did it again. And that episode was so much better because it was just more concise. I mean, we hadn't talked since she was like 2 years old. So it's like 17 years that I hadn't seen the girl. And it was just so much more concise and to the point. So it was really cool. But it's just funny because I didn't think I was ready, but then something kind of fell into place. And that's kind of how I run my life right now, is like, I have to take aligned action. I'm not going to sit back and wait for life to happen, but I am going to plant the seed. I have ideas of what I want. And when I feel like I can take that step and I feel secure, it's like walking on a wobbly bridge. When I feel secure, I'm going to go, but I don't need it to be completely stable, because I know that you have to take risks in life. You have to get out of your comfort zone. So I do know that. But if it's too much for me, and maybe it has to do with everything that I've gone through, maybe it's just keeping that even nervous system is really important for me, because I know the downfall of not. I know the trauma. I know what I've had to dig myself out of, and I don't ever want to have to do that again. And it's my own fault. It's my own choices that I made. So I think that's a lot of it is fear, right? It's just that fear of like, what if I'm not? And I have to remind myself, I need to trust myself, because I've always come out on the other side, and now I'm wiser. And yeah.
Well, sometimes fear is good. I mean, to your point, maybe you weren't ready the first couple of times. Fine. No, awesome.
I wasn't.
Right? That's good for you for having the intuition and self-awareness to know that. And then good for you for saying, okay, we did video and I actually kind of enjoyed it. Oh shit, it didn't record the other side. Oh, damn. Okay. I mean, yeah,
I gotta put my makeup on again. Damn it.
This would be a really convenient reason for me to say I'm never going to do video again, but there's something to that.
I thought that.
I'm sure.
Not meant to be. It's not meant to be, Nicole. Shut it down. You're not good enough.
Was it fulfilling? Was it fulfilling for you to do it? And if that was the case, and you feel that, there's that part of you that says, I know what I'm supposed to do. And oftentimes what the right answer is so often the answer that you don't want. It just, and I think that's the process of growth, because it goes both ways. I really don't feel like recording an episode today, but I know I should because I have something on my heart. Cool. I really want to go to this party and get blackout drunk, but I know I should. Cool. Those are, one seems really good, but it might not be the right thing for you. But
Yeah.
that just comes through. That just comes through time. That
Well,
you've been doing this self-improvement thing longer than I have.
long time. Like, yeah, a long time. So how can people find you?
If you search Next Level University, we will come up on all the platforms. We're on YouTube. We've been doing video for a hot minute. And if anything, questions, comments, concerns, you need anything, my email is kevin@nextleveluniverse.com. I do all my emails. I'm happy to answer any questions you got, podcast questions, life questions, whatever.
And your Instagram account?
@NeverQuitKid.
Love it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your guidance. Your everything. You've been such a great role model for me and support through this journey. And I look forward to many more years.
Likewise, I appreciate you. You're a wonderful human and you're a pleasure to work with.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Have a great day.
You too.